Welcome back to FastMonty's Garage. This is part 5 of our mini tub install into my 69 GTO utilizing ABC Performance's frame modification kit and their mini tubs. This particular episode, we are finally installing this tub as well as all these parts we cut out of the car in the prior episodes. Now, if you're brand new, have no fear. Go check out episode 1 right there. Click that I. In that episode, we started the project with removing the stock tubs. It progressed into modifying the frame in later videos. And most importantly, in video 1 is your chance to win a free hat. So go check out the rules in that video. I will be announcing the winner on the next video when I install the upper coilover mounts from ABC Performance. I'm excited because I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Now, if you don't like free stuff, you can also buy a hat. There's a link below. Shirts, sweatshirts in my YouTube store, which is pretty brand new. And if you want to join the full Monty Club, I've ever helped you out in the past. Thanks for your consideration, because proceeds from any of those avenues go to buying more parts. The stuff's not free, and supporting the channel so you guys can learn from my mistakes since we have more videos to go. That reminds me as well, hit that subscribe button. Click that bell so you're notified of future videos, and we can go on learning together. Let's kick this off, shall we? Looking at the tub, let me show you the front edge of it. We have a seam or a flange that goes down the front of the car. Let me go jump to the wheel well and show you what we need to do there to get this thing to fit. You guys recall we left this flange on the sheet metal for the floor plan, and the original flange for the old tub goes all the way down to the bottom. We actually have to pry this away. See how it can move? We need to pry that out so we can stick the flange in there. You might have to shave some material, which I'm noticing right here, so we can easily get it in. Let's go talk about the back. You guys remember in video number 1, we left this piece, whereas if you had to do this with the body off, you should really cut this all the way down, then you can stick the new tub in there. The problem with this, in my opinion, is if you're going to be welding down in here, you're going to be affecting the paint on the other side of this metal right here. So that's why I avoided that whole area, and we have to match this section on the new tub. Let's go do that. Okay, in the first video I showed you we mocked this up using 2x4s because that's 1.5 inches. That's our gap. And then we put the old tub in the new tub. I drew a line. I gave some extra room so we can cut it back. I'm probably going to move this line a little bit higher to match this upper curvature and go straight back, because we can always trim it back. It's tough to add more material. Not that you can't, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this off with my bandsaw, get that corner removed, and we'll go mock it up in the car. There we go. My apologies, boys and girls. Remember this piece we took out? I forgot. We still have to modify it. See how it hits the frame? Because we're going to move it back another 1/2 inch or so, and it's going to hit the frame. So we have to trim this. Might as well trim this now before that tub is in. So I'm going to go ahead and make my line where I want to cut it, and see if my new Makita will tackle this task. I told you guys I'm addicted to Makitas. This is a new one I saw on TV, one of the car shows I watch. Texas Metal, I think, if you guys haven't seen it. Some awesome tips and metal working on that show, but this is what they use. So I'm gonna go ahead and see if this works here. Try it from the other side. Holy crap, that was fast. Awesome. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, perfect. I'm already noticing this little radius right here. We'll probably have to shave that back because it's hitting right here. I want to maximize the tub past the frame to get bigger tires in here. So That's the one advantage of doing this with the body on the frame, is you can quickly determine how far you can push it. Okay team, what works best for me is put the back in first. So we're right on that ledge. And be particular, pay a particular attention to this edge, and you don't touch your paint even though you're masked. So when you get up into here, you're gonna have to squeeze it. So I was squeezing it this way, and my hand's in the way for a reason. So now we're here. Now you have to pay attention to this upper lip and make sure you're getting it up into the stock location, because it will grab on the part of the tub that's in outboard. So you're gonna have to kind of tilt it up and in like that. I'll just move the camera. So it's this lip here. You want to push it in as you go up and around towards the front of the car. And it's the first one, it's the first attempt, so it's probably not going to go well. Be patient. Getting closer, as you can tell. Okay, attitude adjuster. Ah, yeah, there we go. That upper flange is all the way, not all the way in, but it's past that point where it's grabbing. And now I'm going to push that front flange in the slot. This is what I'm referring to. So that's the area that we talked about. Bam. Wow. Way easier than the other side, I'll tell you that. Let me show you something here. I am super stoked with the first fit. Now remember we did that trim on that back piece? We need to do the same thing for the rail here. See that? So you're gonna have to take your same tool and cut some of the tub off and make it as smooth as you can to make it look like it came that way. But that is awesome because we want the tub to be further past the rail. So all we're worried about is this corner, and that's our whole point, because this is where most tire interference is going to happen, is this back radius. But all in all, I'm pretty stoked right now. And the next thing you want to do is look at the top. So you guys see this gap? I can get my fingers in it. That's actually okay, because I want this to be as far inboard as possible. We are going to bend this flange to accommodate for that room, and that gives us that much more room. Oh, see? And by the way, our cut is almost perfect. I don't have to change anything. Finally, something goes my way. So I'm going to go ahead and start tweaking the flange, take some of that material off the bottom edge, and then we can make another test fit. And assuming all goes according to plan, we can now start looking at the inner floor pan. All right, mock-up number 2. You can see we're now past the frame rail, which is fantastic. Still have some more room. I can push it a little bit, but I wanted to take another measurement. So I took a measurement on the other side at the same spot. So at that corner of our frame out to the tub, I am like less than an 1/8 inch shy. So that's fantastic news. So I don't have much to do there. That little radius on that frame support is what I need to trim back. The other thing on the front, so just so I'm clear on what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to optimize this radius to be as pushed back as far as possible to at least match the frame, because the frame we're not going to move. I mean, that's set in stone. But if we can maximize this another 5 to 10 millimeters, then that's what we want to do. So in this case, I have about a 1/2 inch back here, maybe 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. I'm going to cut the flange, rebend the flange to give us another 3/8 of an inch. So when we put it back in here, it actually pushes it that way. There's my 3/8 inch offset. So I had to cut it, straighten it, rebend it on a new line, hammer and dolly the hell out of it, and there we go. I gotta clean up a little bit there, but now I have to bend this flange to match that offset, because remember, we have that other flange to mate to, and that's easy. You just take a crescent wrench and you can bend it up just like that, because later we're going to weld on the edge to the existing flange, and then we can fill with epoxy or a body filler for that gap. Oh yeah. Here's that front flange offset, and we are touching right there, like barely touching. That is perfect. And while we're on this side, you can see that air gap I still have to fix by bending a little bit more, but what you do is just take your Sharpie and mimic how much distance you have to bend and then where it stops and go at it. It's a lot of back and forth. I know it's painful. Check out the other side though. We have a gap, which is okay. I actually did have a gap on the other side and I filled it with a piece of sheet metal, not a big deal. But right here, perfectly matches the distance on the other side. So I am completely happy. Now let's look at the inside and what we have to do. All right, there's the fitment on the inside, and you can see we need to take some more material off of this flange. So I'm gonna mark it here, shape it back about that far, so we can have room for our sheet metal flange to fit. We also have a little bit at the top. Might be tough to see, but I can see it. And then while you're here, you can also mimic on the side of the tub where the floor pan would be, because we are then going to figure out where to put our spot weld holes. Remember when I asked you guys to cut all the way through, or it didn't matter at the time? Now mock up your sheet metal to your tub and mark where these holes are currently. This is where you do not want to put another spot weld hole. So go along all the existing holes and mark them. And a good guide for you guys is this seam that runs along the edge here that goes above the sheet metal. So if this mocks up above the seam, you're in the wrong spot. So go ahead and mark them and then go back and put X's in them so you make sure you're not cutting there. Yeah, I changed workbenches. My 335s came in handy again, but here's what I'm going to use now. It's basically a hole punch, which helps make those holes for spot welding. I went ahead and marked the holes in red so I wouldn't confuse myself. And remember, the black holes are existing holes. You don't want to put a hole there. So go around, start punching holes. Yeah, it's going to be another workout. At this point, I would recommend etching the outside and priming the outside, as well as etching the inside. I'm going to use POR 15 on the inside, but at this point, you might mock it up for the last time, so you might as well get ready and clean it off with acetone first, like that. After you degrease it with acetone, you might have some flash rust like this from handling it with your bare hands. Frankly, this is a sweaty operation for me, so it could be sweat from my own head. But next step is to add phosphoric acid. I'm going to use this stuff called Piclex. You can also get Afterblast from Eastwood, or maybe even some POR 15 metal prep. But check this out. You soak the metal, so the flash rust is going away. Pretty cool. So you do the whole surface and you let it dry. So you typically let it sit overnight. So I'm gonna go do the whole surface, outside and on the inside. This should be the final mock-up. Now what I did was I removed about 3/16 of an inch from the edge and wanted to test it. So just slide it right in. Like so. And you'll notice I have a little, well, kind of a big gap. Now on the other side, I actually did mate this edge up, but then there was a gap back here that I had to use some sheet metal to patch with. The reason is we moved the tub over more than spec. So there's going to be a gap somewhere and it's much easier to fill a radius with the already radiused piece, and then we can just put a patch panel in. I'll show you guys how to do that. Now, this goal here is to weld this piece in with the tub out. So we still have to take the tub out one last time. I'm going to prime this whole outer surface with our etched weld through primer. I'm also going to mark where I need to get to bare steel here so I can weld this seam, and also tackle the front half of this piece, which is next. This side has an entirely different set of challenges. One being the gap from here to here. We have to push it over. And the only way to do that is to actually put Cleo fasteners in here. I'll show you what Cleos are after I establish the holes. They're very, very good at holding steel in place, especially while you weld. And once I do that, we have to figure out this scenario in here. I mean, look at all the wires and stuff in the way. I have a bungee cord that will help pull the wires out of the way when we're working. We also have to figure out the offset to overlap, just like I did on the other side. So what I'll do is I will take measurements from the tub to this point and then write it here. So when I take the tub out, we'll have a good reference point where to modify our next piece of steel, because if you recall, there's a channel. So I can't just overlap, I have to cut this channel out, etc., etc. Yep, let the games begin. This is a Cleo. So they come in different diameters. This is a 1/8 inch diameter. And what we're gonna do is drill a 1/8 inch hole through the flange, into the mounting flange, and then put the Cleo in there. Probably do several of them. I'm going to guess 4 Cleos around here. And to help out, you're going to need a longer bit like that, so we can get in here without getting any interference from the drill. Mating hole. Get our Cleo in there. Bam, just like that. Before we add that section, remember we got to put this seatbelt bracket back on because it overhangs this section here. And you can cut this back if you want, but I'd prefer to keep that strength there for safety. And then we have to modify that piece of sheet metal to fit over that. Oh yeah, here we go. What? Oh yeah, this is painted. POR 15 on the frame. Now's a good time to do it because, well, it's tough to reach it with a paintbrush after we put the tub in. So might as well do it now. That's what I did. I also primed the back of our piece. And when I had the tub in here and I mocked this up, I used these little pieces of masking tape just to find my edges so I can clamp it down, tack it, take the tape off, finish welding, and we can go from there. I also added a spot weld hole to get onto our bracket. I don't know if you can see that hole right there. And yeah, we're good to go. This is moving along. Obviously, something to note, when you're welding in a dark area, make sure you have lots of lighting to see through your mask. I have a backup light, the camera light helps, and then I have this light, which I put on my welding helmet. Tons of fun. Let's go. Oh yeah, your option if you want to grind those down, but I kind of like those welds. Still have to cover those plug welds, the old spot welds. We'll do that later, but now let's focus on the front section. All right, this piece is a little bit more of a challenge, and what I did is I notched this area so I can flush mount it on top, and this area here, you really have to get, work for me is a beater bag, they call it. And you just pound out that shape. And you can get like 80 to 90% of the way there for your curve. And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna call it tack and bang. I'm gonna tack it where I can get it flush. And then you can get your hammer, sorry, I know you can't see if there's any gaps, you can hammer it flush and then continue your weld. That's the plan, at least. Oh yeah, we're in. Go ahead and check for vertical on the flange. You want to be as close to vertical as possible, especially in this area. And you can always use a metal attitude adjuster. Get those high bumps out of there. Now on the back side, there were a couple spots that either I wasn't comfortable welding or I couldn't get to, and that's okay because that's what seam sealer's for. So keep that in mind. I'm also gonna hit it with POR 15 when we're done. And yeah, man, let's do it. Let's get that tub in here. Oh, I guess I should prime this. There she is, all primed, ready to go. Okay, let's not fight with Monty today. Yes, we're in. Oh my God. All right, let's get the clamping and weld the sucker in. We are done welding. I even ground down the spot welds. I also trimmed the lower, or the flange that was behind the tub, so it looks nice and clean. And I did the patch panel right here. Remember that sliver? Totally forgot to film it. So let's go ahead and tackle the floor pan patch we have to do, and I'll film that for you. Show you what tricks I used. Like that. Ha! No, really simple to do. What you do on this occasion is put down a bunch of masking tape, 3 or 4 layers. Then I marked my spot weld. I marked where the bend is, just in case I wanted to bend it. And then you cut it out with a razor blade, put it on your piece of metal, cut it out, slightly grind it to shape. Then I used a Cleo off center to keep it down, tack weld it in, and then grind it off. There we go. Moving on. This one's self-explanatory. Remember this panel? We're just gonna put it back in place, weld it to our bracket on the top. I'm gonna bend this down, and I added holes. Remember, I didn't have spot weld holes like the other side has, and I forgot you also have to cut this off. So I'm gonna cut this off, bend that down, cut this little corner off, weld it in. Really self-explanatory there. Let's go ahead and tackle the trunk hinge mount. Now we get to put our bracket back in, but before we do so, we have to re-bend this bend because we clearly pushed the tub further inboard. That changes our location. And here's your measurement. So using this big holes reference, because it's opposite on the other side, 1 inch from the original bend line on this end, 1 3/16 on this end, then draw obviously a straight line. Now to make this easier, you're gonna have to cut with your die grinder to get some relief, especially in this middle section because that adds strength. In order to see where that line is, drill 3 holes, and then based on where it intersects your line, you can duplicate it on the back. And now you have an easy location for your cutoff wheel. Then we bend it to about 15 degrees. I think the instructions is 20, but since we moved the tub a little further than standard, 15 worked for me on the other side. There we go. It's my relief cuts. Now I'll get to bending. You have to get creative here too. Now for creative bending here, we are going to cut this off at this line. We don't need this section, but it's easier to bend it now while we have our reliefs. And I'm using a miter gauge set at 15 degrees. And I'm just going to put it in my vise like so and start bending it by hand. Reason being is this is going to bend at its weakest point, and we made the weak points. These are really strong. Hey, there it goes. That is like spot on. Holy crap. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, let's go test fit it in the car. Oh yeah, it's sitting perfect. I went ahead and marked where it sits, just so when I put it back, because we have to clean off this area to weld. And I also want to do a minor adjustment to these corners here. Just bend them down, bend this one down. And I already cut off that back piece because it didn't fit very well when I was mocking it up. I already cut it off. But this little piece right here that's sticking up, we have to cut this off because the hinge will hit it if we go to close the trunk. I learned that the hard way. Next step here is, after I take this out, is I'm going to add a weld right in here because I took off too much material. That'll strengthen this corner. Same with the middle section that we did. And clean it up and weld it in. There we are in, boys and girls. Now you can remove those braces from each side. Hit all your welds with some sort of phosphoric acid. And then I'm going to paint. Be right back. Oh yeah. This is looking killer. So nice to have the plastic off the car too. There's still room up there, and there's another trick where you can actually shave this back to the middle of your spot weld. So I still have like another 1/4 inch if I really wanted to get it. But man, let's go check out the trunk. There we go. Don't mind the mess. It's my amp. I have to still put back in place all my wiring, etc., etc. But now we have matchy, left and right. So if it ain't tucked, you're probably doing it wrong. Man, look at the lines going on here. I cannot wait to get the wheels measured on order, etc., etc. I got a long way to go. And those of you guys hanging out this long in the series and still looking to win a hat from episode 1, I'm going to give you a hint right now. Everyone is under the number by a lot. So if you want to think about that, I'll review, like last video I timed a couple of the pieces of install and showed you the time there. But go back, edit your response. There's three little dots next to your comment. If you click that, it says edit. You can actually change your number. So you have until next episode, because next episode we still have to put in the upper coilover mounts and a much bigger torsional bar in between those mounts. So it replaces my UMI upper support. So that might go up for auction too. But guys, you know the drill. Thanks for hanging out. And until next time, building fast, driving faster. See ya.